All right, it's Thursday, one of my favorite days of the week, and you know what that means. It's time for another Inside Star Citizen. So we're gonna watch this one together. I haven't seen it before. I don't even know what it's about. But let's go.
Star Citizen's dogfight module was first discussed as far back as 2013, showcased at PAX East in 2014, and released to the world as Arena Commander in June of that same year. And since then, it's had an update here and there, but it's been a long, strange trip set under the shadow of larger endeavors like Squadron 42 and the Persistent Universe. And recently, the new Arena Commander feature team was formed, a small but dedicated force of names and faces you might recognize, determined to give the oft-forgotten dogfight module some much-needed TLC.
I don't personally spend a lot of time in Arena Commander because it's mostly people that are PvP all the time, and I do love PvP, but I'm not at their level. It is curious to me that they had to devote a team to it though, because it was always supposed to be kind of a stopgap. And I really don't think it's supposed to stay around forever, but I guess we'll see. I mean, it is fun. I hate that some of the referral program rewards are tied to this Arena Commander. Like, I don't want a pack of ships that are just specifically for Arena Commander. That does me no good. But also, I have almost all the ships anyway, so well, maybe I'm just being a jerk.
And a new roadmap of features that continues later this year and continues beyond.
The Arena Commander feature team is actually the team that is in charge of, well, Arena Commander. Initially, the Arena Commander was actually owned within sort of the vehicle pillar of the company, and we hadn't had yet a team dedicated to it. This was actually the first game that we had rolled out, the first module, and we had called it the Dogfight module. And from there on out, it has now become Arena Commander. So very important for sort of the hardcore player base that is really, really into.
I wonder if Arena Commander will get the master modes first. Like, they could try it out in a combat situation and see how it plays. I don't know.
Especially PvP sort of scenarios. That is really the main place and the main reason why Arena Commander continues to exist, and why it's really important for the company. Now, during the pandemic, we stopped working with Firesprite, so that, of course, had to change plans a little bit. There was those among Firesprite that still wanted to continue to work with Arena Commander, and they had come over to work for us at CIG, and those include, you know, Duncan Bunting. Woo! Now, this was important that we were able to put together a plan that would leverage all the art, all the access.
I mean, a lot of people might not know this, but the guys at Star Citizen, they do work with a bunch of other studios, and some of the studios do other things for them, like develop the star map on the website and stuff. So it is cool that even though they stopped working with this Firesprite guys, that some of them were able to move over. I'm curious though, like, why isn't Arena Commander bug free after 10 years? Like, you log in now and there's still a good chance that you're going to have a problem with the actual game itself, and it's not a part of the PU.
To content that we've got from Star Citizen, but be able to apply it within Arena Commander without having to remake everything. Also being able to leverage already game modes that exist to improve them in a much, much better quality of life way, and to be able to set us up to be able to scale Arena Commander into new content. And most importantly is, as we come to Death of a Spaceman, there's going to be things that you want to be able to test out without having to risk your life. So we can't just maintain the mode. We want to improve it and to re-excite people about it.
Whoa, 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 whoa. So they're saying that they're going to expand Arena Commander. Does that mean that we're going to have like a PU where stuff matters, and then a different environment where you can do all kinds of stuff, but it doesn't affect the gameplay? I don't know how I feel about that.
So basically, me and Duncan, we came together and came up with a plan for this year and for next to be able to do that. And we broke that into a couple stages. And one of those stages we want to talk about today, as it's imminent.
As it's imminent. What does imminent mean in the case of Star Citizen? I have no idea. 3 years, 4 years?
So Arena Commander, through the years, kind of hasn't had much love as, like, say, the PU Persistent Universe. You know, in the beginning, it was all hands on deck, get that multiplayer, get that system flowing. And then a lot of the resources kind of moved off of that, including myself. I went straight to working on vehicles for the Persistent Universe. So Arena Commander was kind of always that background game where you can play a certain thing, but it was kind of stale in the sense that nothing new has come. What you have now is kind of what we had when I originally played. In fact, when I originally worked on Arena Commander, a lot of those same systems.
That's true. So why is it still broke? I don't understand. Like, sometimes the missions won't end. Sometimes when you equip slot items on your ships, they just disappear. Sometimes when you select a ship and then you go into the game, you're in a completely different ship. I don't understand. For 10 years, if it's the same, why doesn't it work?
When I went back to it now, are still there. So it's a lot of the old stuff, which works great, but it's not up to our today's standards.
So as flight modes have changed, we haven't updated the race mode. As combat modes have changed, we haven't really updated the swarm modes. As PvP has changed based on features, we need to keep up with that within Arena Commander. And that's a big reason why I think people don't play it, is that it has become somewhat disconnected from what Star Citizen and the persistent universe is. And it's imperative that as a simulation to that it is closer and more accurate to what's going on there, and thus means it has to keep up. So
I will say that Pirate Swarm is way harder than the Vandal Swarm. Like, I did a multiplayer Vandal Swarm on my own and finished it. But you get to those final stages in the Pirate Swarm and that hammerhead messes you up, man.
Always had these big ticket items, things to aim for, big flagship game modes and such. So with the small team that we've got, our focus and this presentation that we put together when the team was first formed was a revival of Arena Commander, a 3-step process. And the first step that we're experiencing early this year is laying the foundation, where we're replacing a lot of the old, kind of worn, very old code, old data with new updated stuff so that we can apply new features, new quality of life things, and really bring Arena Commander up to what the quality that you'd expect from Star Citizen.
So where do you start when you want to plan something like this and break up those stages? Well, you start at the start. You start at first impressions. So nobody wants to build what I like to call a castle in the sky. You've got to start by laying foundations and the very first impression of what people are experiencing within that game. So with that comes the front end.
The front end connects everything. It's our lobby system, it's how we get into matches, it's how we connect with friends, it's how we even make our private matches, which we'll have later this year.
One of the most important things that we're going to be able to do is remove.
Private matches will be cool because there's a lot of times where we want to train our guys in our org, and you go in the PU and we have spies that figure out what we're doing, and they'll show up to mess with you. So if you can do a private match where you can set up dogfights between individuals and stuff, I like that. And then free fly would work, but free fly, sometimes you get people in there that are also really gunning to fight.
Move all of the flash out of the front end. Now, this is a very, very legacy piece of technology that we had relied on for many years. But over the course of the years, and as the community might be aware, we've already changed over to an internal system called building blocks. What we'd like to do is bring our entire front end up to building blocks. We've brought portions of it, but not Arena Commander at all.
First iteration is going to be a focus on functionality, and we'll be iterating patch to patch to add more things that players have been asking for a number of years.
Yeah, so we're changing all of this front end to make it very easy to configure and get into your matches quickly.
The next step is I want to combine Star Marine and Arena Commander into one menu item, which is Arena Commander. Now, nothing's really changed. We've only just given you one button to go into an interface that you still...
I mean, okay, so talking about combining this stuff, weren't we supposed to get Theaters of War like forever ago? So like, is this a step that we got to take before we can get to Theaters of War so that you can select that as a game mode and then you can be flying ships or on the ground? I don't know, but that, I would love Theaters of War. It would be like Battlefield, but you know, on crack and in space.
Still have all the same access that you would have. So you don't have to go into a specific Star Marine sort of front end. That would only get you to the given map, or then a specific Arena Commander front end. You go into the Arena Commander front end, and you have access to Star Marine game modes. You have access to Star Marine maps. You have access to Arena Commander game modes, Arena Commander maps, and you have access to all the race modes and race maps.
Now, we're not taking away the Star Marine brand. That's still going to be the maker of these FPS games, but what you'll find now with this new front end is it's all under the Arena Commander simulation module.
So this is really important for us for that first impression, so that one, people know the sheer amount of content and stuff that's actually there, but second, we're also able to update it as time goes on, much easier.
For the past number of years, we've been slowly refactoring some of those old systems to bring them up to date so that we can add new features easily. One example would be the spawning module, which Mark Aben is currently working on.
There's huge potential in Arena Commander. We just have to fix what's there. Potential as in being, Arena Commander's a fast-paced, action-based. We get you into the game quick and easy. And if we fix some of the issues like when, loadout customization is a huge one.
Ship loadouts, selecting your ship's rentals, etc., are a little bit cumbersome, and it's not
a little bit
very easy to do things like find other players for the game modes that you want on the servers that are going to be.
The whole rental system is stupid, right? Like, so because I'm a subscriber, I get 500,000 credits or whatever to rent stuff, and you have to rent all the components. Like, just give me the option to choose between what I want. Don't create some arbitrary coin that I have to play Arena Commander to earn to get more stuff. Like, this isn't a progression game where, we're building our loadouts and then we get the next level of gun and stuff. Like, just give me the best, and then I can go in there and fight and work on my skills. I don't like the way they're pitching this, because it seems like it's a third game in the Star Citizen branch. Like, this module was always meant to just kind of hold you over until the real stuff came. And I like the fact that they're going to fix it and make it better, but I don't know how much attention we should be focusing to this. I would really love for my ship to not blow up randomly in the PU, or I don't know. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and keep watching.
The best experience for you. So what we are planning to do is to make that experience a lot more user-friendly, so that you could instantly select your ship, select your players, select the game modes that you want to, and then find a worthwhile adversary in game modes that are head-to-head, or find other teammates that will help you achieve your goals in the cooperative game modes.
I want people to be able to get together to play this game in a very, very easy way. So that whether that is things like friends and lobby support, whether that's things like private matches, which is an imperative thing, we've got to get over to building blocks so we can implement private matches back for you guys, which you've asked for quite some time here.
Since we're also revamping a lot of our core systems, one of the things we want to change was.
It just occurred to me. It's like, I think that they understand that the next year is going to be rough in the PU, and maybe the year after that. So maybe they've gotten some information from the PES data that's making them a little nervous about how the playability in the PU, and they're afraid that they're going to start bleeding active users, because they're very proud of the number of concurrent users that are coming and the new players and the amount of hours they're spending in game. So I wonder if they're going to do this work because they're afraid that the PU is going to be pretty unreliable until server meshing and all that is completely worked out. Like, I know that the community is really hard on them sometimes, and I try to avoid that. Like, I know these guys are working hard. So I wonder if this focus is now, and it is here because they don't want us to be hard on them. They want us to have fun and love the game, but they know that they've got a lot of work to do before it's smooth.
This thing called a ban list. A long time ago, we have this kind of list of things that say you can't use this in Arena Commander, or you can't use this ship in Arena Commander. One of the biggest things we changed is make it very tagged based in a way that design can go, if I want to use this ship in this mode, I just have to tag these things and bam, it's used for that mode. So we want to give tools to design to say, you could use this, you can use this, and we can add an item or a weapon in a few seconds rather than a few minutes.
What we don't want people is guessing or having to really dig around to figure out what it is they want to be able to do. We want to guide them through that. So it's really important that we do make those front-end updates so that our first impression and our foundations are sound within this game. One of our maps within Arena Commander is Dying Star. So, building better battles, as Jared likes to put it. How are we going about that? Well, there was a couple updates. We had already made quite a large visual update, even during the pandemic, and as partnered with the legacy team. But now with the internal team, we wanted to take some further steps.
So last year, cool Dying Star underwent an artistic update. It was quite visually stunning, very pretty. A lot of artists worked very hard on that. Unfortunately, the things that made it very, visually interesting, made for not so great gameplay, especially in the arena of like combat. One of the major issues that we got from our community is that it was just too bright, and so you couldn't see where you were going. Or
this issue is not limited to Arena Commander, though. There are tons of times where you cannot even see your pip or anything because it's so bright that it's just one big image. I don't know how they correct that, but they have to. They have to. And then like the clouds, they get where they're too dense and you can't see anything. Like I like the idea of dynamic weather, but I don't want weather to be the reason I can't play the game.
Where other players were.
Gameplay-wise, we kind of missed the mark. There was a lot of heavy fog, things that made players actually motion sick. So we got a lot of feedback from the community, and we addressed those things straight away as soon as we came on board with the Arena Commander feature team.
Some of the things that we did to fix it were to reduce the opacity and the density of the really bright yellow gas cloud that is predominant in the level. That greatly helped to reduce the overall brightness of the level.
He went into the map, he reduced the density of the fog, size of the particles, and the way that the light affects the player's visor.
There were some performance issues with the level itself, and that was a result of some of the actual space station assets being used to generate the space station that was in Dying Star. And so our engineers discovered that there was actually AI within the closed.
Speaking of like visibility, people are like, well, weather is real. Well, I understand that weather is real, but I also understand that in the future, the idea of your vehicle having a windshield makes no sense. Right? Like right now we have backup cameras on our ships or on our cars. Right? There's no reason why you would design something that was going to go through combat in space and put a windshield on it when you could just as easily do a map around the whole thing of camera outputs. My car has cameras that see all the way around it, and you can see like all the vehicles around you and stuff. So I don't understand, like in the future, why aren't we just seeing through a metal sheet like the alien ships? And then if that technology exists, why doesn't it also account for weather effects and remove distortions? Like when you're FPS, let the weather screw you up as much as you want. But when you're in ship, I want to see where I'm going and what I'm looking at. Anyway, maybe it's just me.
Closed off hangar. Since they had no place to go, it caused a little bit of havoc in those levels.
How did you feel the first time you heard about the AI?
When I heard the AI, I was like, well, that explains it.
While it's completely invisible to the player, it really tanked our FPS.
So while these first Dying Star improvements that you're seeing are mainly performance related and visuals as well, we'll be coming in right behind that with some exciting gameplay improvements that you guys should stay tuned for. Oh, geez, that's maybe too much. Was that too much? So I talked about two sort of core gameplay elements. I talked about sort of the flight and fight, and then I talked about FPS. But what I haven't really addressed is racing, which is flight, period.
Racing is a dangerous sport, especially when you've got 6 degrees of freedom, you're flying around a hunk of a ship, you're probably going to die. So to perfect your skills, you need to do it in Arena Commander.
Our race mode in Arena Commander is one of those modules that were kind of built in the early days when I started working here. And a lot of the core infrastructure is roughly the same of what we had originally.
So the New Horizon maps, they've been in since the implementation of racing, and they've been pretty much untouched. There's been some bug fixes, some quality of life improvements.
We hadn't updated those race maps in a long time. A great example was, the current race map that was in place, it looked like it was an atmosphere, but the way it actually flew was as if we were completely zero G.
So what we've done now is we've got the real planet, Green 3 of the Ellis system, which is an Earth-like, beautiful, holiday-like planet, where the races will now take place in atmosphere where they should be.
So they any of the benefits we get from the racetrack being on a real planet, such as gravity and atmosphere, actually affect the race now.
That's good. That's smart.
Can you fly down?
You can fly down to the planet if you want. You're not going to complete the race. So our Arena Commander team is very small. We actually don't have artists, but one place that we have countless number of locations, incredibly beautiful locations, is the PU. It just makes sense. Take those locations from the PU and put them in Arena Commander. Some might think that might be a difficult task. It's actually not. The designers have worked out a perfect workflow along with Mark, making some adjustments to how we spawn object containers, and we're able to take.
I love the way that was drifting. Like, I don't fly like that. I wish I could, because that looks super cool. I also really like the idea of taking things directly from the PU and putting in Arena Commander, because then if you want to do really good on a specific race in the PU, you can practice. But this also kind of feeds into the how vast is this Arena Commander going to get, and is it going to be a place where you can play safely without PvP if you want, which I know a lot of people are screaming for, so maybe.
Take PU locations into Arena Commander pretty fast.
Right now I'm working on is taking racetrack from the PU and transferring them into the Arena Commander. So what I do is basically, with the PU getting racetrack, I would take those racetracks, and with the new race refactor that we have, I can transfer them into the Arena Commander.
Whatever you see in PU is what you see in AC. So whenever we make improvements to things like the actual track that you see in PU, we get the benefits of those improvements. The big benefit is, though, that since they are equal, you get to practice in AC the skills that it takes to become a quick racer and really excel at those tracks without the
I love having tank battles
consequences of
there,
permanent
actually.
death.
So we can do that for
good.
racing, we can do that for FPS combat, we can do that for dogfighting locations like Jericho Station, which will also be coming with this patch.
Now,
what
there was some
patch?
inspiration that was brought definitely from the community, and myself and Duncan had seen a lot of the messaging that was out there. There was a super active community within racing, and they were basically setting up all the new structure for themselves. And it always seemed to me like a very obvious thing that we could do to support this was to be able to bring PU level type content and tracks into Arena Commander to fulfill that content. And since the time that we had made racing so many years ago, we've since gotten planets, we've since gotten atmospheric flight, we've gotten a bunch of different flight modes. So racing needs to keep up with basically the rest of the game. To make it relevant to everything that's going on within the Persistent Universe, we need to bring Persistent Universe locations, especially great racetracks that the community has come up with, that we have come up with, into Arena Commander itself, so that we can deliver that to you in a more
Race of the Reclaimer, huh?
session that you could do that practice with, but it'd be completely relevant to the larger
that they can barely stay in the air
universe. So we take those locations into Arena Commander so that those are much more accurate and much more relevant to what you're doing.
Can't even land a Reclaimer. It just falls out of the sky.
Overall, I'm so happy with the progress the Arena Commander team has made. We went from the very small team with a lot of passion, and we've got a pretty solid plan here on how we can revitalize Arena Commander throughout this year. We're going to be committed to improving Arena Commander throughout the year, throughout the next year. We're targeting 12 new racetracks, including the 3 you're familiar with from the New Horizon Speedway. We are adding a new dogfighting map, Jericho Station, and we are targeting a lot of quality of life improvements, reworks to some vital systems that you might not see changes on the surface, but they are vital behind the scenes for us to make more changes throughout this year.
So now you've seen what the Arena Commander feature team is up to, and we thought it was important that we came to the community and talked about our plans a little bit. Now, I've learned my lesson. I'm not about to give, for out there dates or too much expectation in place, but we did want you to know what the plans are and that we are actively working on it right now. So you can expect that, you know, you'll see some great updates. And
the office looks
one
really cool.
important thing that we've actually put in place as well is that we've discussed with our release planners. We've now got a separate patch notes for Arena Commander. So Arena Commander is going to be reported just a little bit alongside Star Citizen, but not embedded within the patch notes, so that it's a little bit easier for you guys to see exactly what's happened with the Arena Commander.
I wonder if they'll be able to patch this separately. Like, they should be able to work on Arena Commander patches and get them knocked out quick. So I wonder if we'll be waiting a year for a Star Citizen patch, like a PU patch, but we'll get 5, 6, 7, 8 Arena Commander patches. The more I'm thinking about it, I think maybe this is going to be really good, because this might get us to play the game, right? 317, almost everyone I know has lost complete interest in it at this point. So if they are afraid of the next development cycle and they want to make sure that we're still engaged, this might actually be a great idea. Now I wonder, I doubt it, but I wonder if they're going to say when, maybe 319, but who knows when that will come out. I don't know.
Commander patch to patch, because though we've talked about some specifics in this, there's lots of little things that, you know, aren't worth necessarily talking about on video, but bugs that are fixed that, hey, maybe bothered people for years, that have been addressed since then. So we're really happy to be able to talk to you guys about what's going on with Arena Commander feature team, and look forward to the rest of the year.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that Arena Commander is finally getting the front and back end fixes needed to add more ships and return things like private custom matches. That the existing racing modules are finally getting remade with the same atmospheric physics as the PU. And that each one of the new PU racetracks will make their way into Arena Commander when the first new drop is released later this year. Now, don't forget that the Lunar New Year festivities are coming to an end, so don't miss out on your last chance to participate if you haven't already. And check out last week's Star Citizen Live for even more information about the upcoming Alpha 318, and then keep your eyes on the RSI website and socials for info on its forthcoming release. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. We'll see you all here next week.
All right. I mean, honestly, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. The team did a really good job on it. At first, I'll admit, I was frustrated. Like, I was like, why the hell are they working on this? But I think we figured it out why, and I think it might be a net positive. I'd really like to know what you guys think, though. So if you leave a comment, let's chat about it. I mean, I respond to everything on YouTube, so whatever. And then I would really love if you guys made it this far for you to subscribe and help build the channel out. 07, see you next time.